So I just want to say what a privilege it is to be here with you this morning. I just want to say also thank you to translator who is at the top, because he will have one of the harder days of his life. I used to speak 3 times the speed of this, just to let you know. I'm now very old, getting older, so I'm slowing down. But thank you so much. I just want to say as well, thank you so much for all the church members who are here. Somebody told me a very important sentence. She said to me this. She said to me, I understand English, but I feel Spanish. And that is so important. Because so many of you here are wondering what message you will get today. You're wondering, will your heart hear the message? I just want to say thank you for being here. Because for you being here supporting your young people means the world to them. They're here to worship God, but they're here also to make you proud as well. So to everybody who took a part here on the service, in the worship, singing, offering, whatever you did, we are so proud of it. We are thankful for your ministry, and we just want to hope, and we really hope that you will take over this church forward. So for the members of the church here, thank you for being there to support them. I just want to give you a couple of announcements because you didn't have long enough announcements. I was trying to understand Spanish. I have no clue what you said. But I love it. And my wife does understand it because of the Spanish soaps we watched in Serbia, just to let you know. But I just want to say that on the 15th of March, just very soon, in a couple of a month's time, we have a Global Youth Day in the Greater Sydney Conference. And we would like you all to be part of that. It doesn't matter, it says youth in there. That's not important. On a Global Youth Day on the 15th of March, all World Church is stepping outside of the churches to serve the communities. And so whatever you can do, so you come to the church, you enjoy the beautiful message from the pastor. Thank you, Pastor, for having me. Then you have an amazing lunch that you usually have. Don't eat too much because you need to go outside and do something for Jesus. And then the young people will step outside and find a way to help the community. Feed the homeless. Give free hugs, visit those who are lonely, sometimes buy flowers and gifts to people who are passing by, letting them know Jesus loves them. Some people will clean the part of the city and the town. And on the 15th of March, I just want to invite everybody here in Vedlo Park to step outside in faith and serve the community. And so please support your young people. And then I just want to remind you about a big camp. Maybe this was mentioned here, but in April we have a big camp, and a Greater Sydney Conference family is coming together. And they would love you to be there, because some of the young people here who sang the song, they were there. What a beautiful memory for all of us. And something that is not important, the last thing, but I want to make an announcement. Next year, just to let you know, next year, so you have time to prepare, it is 4th to the 9th of August. 4th to the 9th of August. There will be European Youth Congress. Now you're wondering why this is important. Well, it's not important at all, I just said that. But we are planning from Greater Sydney Conference, just to let you know, Australian Union is planning to travel to the Youth Congress in Europe. And the good thing and the bad thing happened. Well, the bad thing is that Italians who couldn't host the Congress anymore, and they just let us know that the Youth Congress will be in Valencia, Spain next year. So, it is a very good time to go back to the home country for Spanish people, to brush up on your Spanish, because your Spanish is not sounding so good anymore. But I sometimes laugh and I joke and I say, some young people need to go back to Valencia to meet Jesus, but some young people need to go meet somebody else as well. You decide which part you want to be part of. So the next year, as a Greater Sydney Conference, we're going to make our way to Spain, and we're looking to maybe do a trip after that or mission project in Europe after that. So the 4th to the 9th of August. Not the best dates for Australia, but for Europe, that's the only dates we can get. All right. Let me share the message. When I was in England, I had many jobs. And as I was studying at Newbold College, I sometimes had 5, sometimes 6 part-time jobs. I was working 62 hours a week in order to pay for my school. And one of the best jobs I had, I was a student dean. In case you're wondering what the student dean does, it is something like a police officer at Newell College. And they gave me the job because I have this very strong accent. And people say that I sometimes sound like a professional killer, you know. So they knew that if I shout or say something, people might actually listen. But my job was, I was working in a man's dormitory. And I was looking after the boys. And so every Friday evening, as the Sabbath is about to start, young people, boys, would put beautiful clothes. They would put a lot of perfume on themselves. And they would go to the church. I was able to watch them as they were coming down. In fact, I was able to smell them before they came down. They would mix all the perfumes together, give you a headache, just to let you know. And then they would go to the church, and they would start the Sabbath. And then something very strange would happen after this, and that is the young men would go back to their rooms. They would put even nicer clothes on themselves, even more perfume, and they would come down, and then guess what? I was watching all of it from my office. They went and they walked to the girls' dormitory. I had binoculars to make sure they behave. And as they were standing in front of the girls' dormitory, then girls came down, also very beautifully dressed, and then they would go for a walk. I found out that they would go for a walk around the golf course called Blue Mountains. And there is no mountains in England at all, just to let you know. And then as they would walk around, they would use this time to do something very important, and that is to define their relationships. So they would walk together, boys and girls, and they would talk, and how was your week, oh, blah, 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 all these things. And then in a few moments' time, usually girls would make a step or two faster. They would turn around, and they would face the boy, and they would say this: define your relationship with me. You can imagine that was a very scary moment. But man, we lost a little bit of courage. We used to go and fish for our food or hunt for our food, but now we just go to Coles or McDonald's. So there is no need to be brave anymore. And so girls realize that if they don't ask the question, they never know the answers. And so they would ask the question, and a boy would have then three options. Option number one was what? Second? Run away. Anybody think for that option? It's true. That's exactly. She would say, define your relationship with me. The boy would turn around and he would start running as fast as possible. Some unofficial world records of a broken day, by the way, because I know when they left and when they came back to the dorm. You know, option number two was what? Say again? Somebody is to lie. Boys would decide to lie. They would look at them and they would say this. They would say, well, you're beautiful. Totally forgetting that the girls have a lie detector embedded in their brain. She would know that he's lying from the first word he says. You know, and then she would not help end this, but she would help him dig the hole even deeper. She would say something, tell me more. And then the boy would have to lie even more. Well, you're beautiful. You're so smart. And she would say, yeah, tell me more. And then he would be sweating for a long time. And there was option number three, and that was to tell the truth. And if you told the truth, there was two potentials. One is that this walk will be the most beautiful walk you will take in your life. And option number two was to be actually define the relationship and remain the friends for your rest of the life. And so some of those walks tend to be the most beautiful walks. Some of them are walking even today as they're married and they're with each other. Others remain friends. And this morning I would like to ask for your permission. A permission for Weatherall Park Church that we go for a walk with Jesus around the golf course called Blue Mountains. We would walk together and we would spend time in defining our relationship with Jesus. You have three options. Option number one is to run, so the fire exits are clearly marked. Oh, there is none there. Don't worry. Don't go there. That's just a cupboard. Option number 2 is to lie. And option 3 is to tell the truth. Defining where you are with Jesus on this path. And I can tell you one thing for sure, and that is that this definition can mean a life of eternity with Jesus, or maybe a moment of self-reflection, and maybe some things need to change. You see, my friends, I grew up as a pastor's son. I practically was born in the second pew of the church, but I could come to the church and leave the church exactly the same. Sometimes we park our car on a car park, we turn our autopilot, and then we walk into the church and we just do exactly what it needs to be done. We sit down, we stand up, we kneel, we sing, we sit down, we stand up, we listen to the message, and then we walk through the church exactly the same way we came in, and we leave exactly the same. I used to do the same thing. I used to say for myself, I was the best cheerleader for Jesus. I could just turn on as a pastor's son and live the life of just no difference at all. I would come and go exactly the same. And Jesus, at one point in my life, really showed me that maybe I am not living my life to the best that I can. There is a Bible text in there which says this in Luke chapter 9, verse 23. Jesus put it this way. If anybody would like to come after me, he must deny himself, take up the cross, and follow me. My friends, I realized very early in my life that I am maybe not the best follower of Jesus Christ. I remember this as I was standing and I had a picture of Jesus and picture of Michael Jordan. Anybody remembers Michael Jordan? And I was able to look at Jesus and say, I love you, Jesus. But then I was able to look at Michael Jordan and say the same words, I love you, Michael. I was thinking, well, Jesus can fly, but Michael Jordan can fly as well. He would jump and fly and dunk and do all these things. I realized that Jesus was not one and only in my life, but among many in my life. I remember going to the football game for the first time ever in my life. Anybody likes to watch soccer? Sorry, let me just, this is the wrong crowd to ask. Everybody loves to watch soccer here, maybe, except wives. Wives, we can't stand that. But maybe. I remember first game ever, I went to the football game, Reading against Tottenham. Never been to a football game, never had the money to go for the football game. My friend had a free ticket. We left 3 hours before the game started. How many of you leave to go to church 3 hours before the church starts? Nobody. They're 3 hours before the game starts. We were in a car driving to Reading. We came there, we couldn't park anywhere. All car parks taken. We had to park so far away that I feel it was easier to just leave the car at Newport College and just walk to the game. I remember this, and when we walked inside, there was 30,000 people in there. I said to my friend, what are they doing here? Oh, so they're watching game. They love the game. And then he said, watch this. He says, on that side, there are Tottenham fans, fans which support Nottingham, and on this side, there were Reading fans. And he says, watch what happens when the door of the stadium on the side opened. As the door opened, the first player, he came and touched the grass with his foot. The moment he touched the grass with his foot, the 15,000 people on that side, they all stood up. And they started singing the song that you and me know very well. They started singing a song. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. 15,000 people. My hair stood on my head like this. I said, that's our song. I looked at my friend and said, why are they singing our song? He says, well, the Tottenham actually started as a church club. They had a church, but they played football next to church as well. And later on, they became professional club. And he said, damn, but they're not singing the song to Jesus. He explained this to me. He said this, when the saints go marching in, it's not when the believers are marching in. No, when the football players, they're the saints. When the football players go marching in, they're saying, I want to be in that number, meaning I want to be additional player on the football pitch, or when the saints go marching in. And I remember later on in my life, I became a pastor, and we sang this song at one of the camps, or when the saints go marching in. And we sounded terrible. we sounded like we didn't believe in that song. And I remember my friend once told me later on, he says, Dan, the problem maybe is this, that the church that we love and we serve so faithfully is full of fans and not of followers. I said, what does that mean? He says, let me explain this to you. He says, the true followers in a football are the people who never miss the game in their life. When it's sunshine outside, when it's raining or when it's cold, they still go to the football game. He says the fans, they stay at home and they watch the game on a football, on a television. And when they started losing, they flip the channel. And if they lose for a week or two or season or two, they change the football club, the soccer club. He says those are the fans. The followers, they take £5,000-6,000 of their money, $10,000, and they buy the seasonal ticket to go to all the games. They go and travel to every single game, and guess what? When the club is losing, they still sing their hearts out. And when the club is losing money, they put their hand even deeper in their pocket and donate to the club, and they say, don't worry, everything is going to be fine because we are with you. He says there is a difference between the fans and the followers. The moment he asked that question and he made a statement, I actually started asking myself a question, am I the fan or a follower of Jesus Christ? Am I the guy who supports Jesus when it's easy to support Jesus, but when it's hard, I'm not there for him? And the real question I have for all of us here this morning is, are we fans or are we followers of Jesus Christ? Where do we stand with him? And my friends, there is a couple of examples in the Bible which we will just study today, not very long because of the time, but it simply says, in one of the, it says, as they were walking along the road, a man said to him, so as the disciples were walking along with Jesus, a man said to him, I will follow you wherever you go. Notice what he says. He says, I will follow you, Jesus, wherever you go. And then Jesus replied, he said, foxes have holes and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to put his head down. And it's very interesting. The man is going to a group of Jesus and disciples. He says, Jesus, I will follow you wherever you go. He even uses the right word, I will follow you, Jesus. Everybody lives in the world of social media these days. People want to be followed. People are building their social media so they can have followers. This man comes to Jesus and you expect Jesus to say one thing to him. He says, you'd expect him to say, yes, please, or no, thank you. But Jesus goes into this sentence which at the moment doesn't make so much sense. He says, the foxes have where to sleep, and the birds have the nests where to sleep, but I, Son of God, have no place to sleep tonight. Can you imagine you go to the court and because you were speeding. Anybody speeding here? Thank you for being honest. And they say, Reuben, you were going 20 kilometers over the speed limit in the zone of this area. What happened? And can you imagine Reuben stands up and he says this, foxes have holes and the birds have nests, and the judge will look at Reuben and he would think something is wrong with Reuben. He would say, well, listen, Reuben, we can't talk. I asked you about this, but you're talking about something else. We need to reevaluate what's happening with you. Jesus is doing the same thing. The man comes to him, I want to follow you. And a man is waiting for yes or no. And Jesus says, well, foxes have holes and the birds of the air have nests. And this man is like, what has this to do with this? And I tell you what it has. You see, Jesus realized that this man is following Jesus for a little while now. Maybe for a month or two, and now he's realizing that if you are with Jesus, life gets easy. In other words, guess what? If you are hungry, God, Jesus himself, makes the rocks turn into bread. Anybody here likes bread? Yeah, I'm here with you guys. Everybody else, you need to love bread as well. Bottom line is, he realizes that if there is a rock, Jesus can make a bread out of it. He also realizes that if he breaks his foot or he gets injured, Jesus heals, whatever is necessary. In other words, Jesus, for him, was walking, bread-making machine, plus Medicare on top of that. You have a problem? You just go with Jesus. He makes your life easy. He makes your life very comfortable. In other words, he realizes that this man is not looking for the Savior. He is looking for easy life. Who likes easy life? I like easy life. Yeah, thank you, you three who are honest. Let me put a hand. Who likes easy life? Let me see now hand. Yeah, we all do. It's part of our nature. Instead of searching for God in our life, we sometimes replace God with a comfort in our life. I don't know, did you notice this in your life, but in Africa, well, I'm sure this statement goes across the world. They're saying this. In Africa, the man who walks wants a bicycle. The man who has a bicycle wants a motorbike. And the man who has a motorbike wants to have a car. It's everywhere. Suddenly, the car we have is not good enough. Suddenly the house or the flat is too small. Suddenly the education we have is not good enough. Suddenly, and we realize that we are the people who are looking for God, but actually we started replacing God with a comfort in our life. And let me just tell you, I have nothing against the comfort in life, but I just have the problem that when we actually take God out of our life to put more comfort in our life. I remember, for you guys, maybe you remember that, there was one terrible car in my country being produced called the Yugo. Yugo was a terrible car. I remember praying to God. I said, dear God, I just came to Newbold. I said, dear God, please give me a car, so that I can go and get 5 jobs so I can pay for my school. And guess what? God has answered. He gave me the small car, Yugo, which was, I paid $300 for it, just to let you know. It talks about the product. When I sold the car, I sold it for $300 as well, which tells you that it doesn't lose no value. Because it's really hard to lose value on $300, I guess. This car used to spend more water than the petrol, just to let you know. I would just add every stop. I was like, oh, let me a little bit add more water. It's just terrible. God has answered the prayer. God has given me a small car. Guess what? It's just like my friends started making fun of me. They said, does your car have airbag? My car even doesn't have a brakes properly, just to let you know. I used to have a rope with a brick. I used to make fun of it. I said, well, my car doesn't have airbag. He has a feather bag. And they were like, what's the feather bag? Oh, feather bag, I said, that's a pillow, which I put in, between the roof and the visor, above there. So if I hit something, the visor will open. The feather bag will fall on my steering wheel. I will hit the steering wheel. I will very likely die, but I will look good. That's what I say. I remember how God answered prayer, but suddenly I needed more. I started praying to God to give me a different. I remember I prayed to God, dear God, give me a roommate so I can share the bills, so that I can save my money to pay my college. And guess what? God gave me a roommate. And God has answered prayer, but guess what? I want more comfort in my life. Just like 2 weeks down the line, I started praying different prayer. I said, dear God, give me a better car which has airbag and leather seats if it's possible. And please remove my roommate any way you want. Just take him away. Tornado, earthquake, whatever you want, just take him. I remember this because I remember how God was faithful and how I wanted more comfort in my life. Guess what? God really fulfilled all the part of His deal for sure. And then this man comes to Jesus. He says, Jesus, I want to follow you wherever you go. Jesus, I really want to follow you. And Jesus says, you want to follow me? Are you sure you want to follow me? And he says, yes, I want to follow you, Jesus. And then Jesus says this, are you sure you want to follow me? He says, yes. And then Jesus says this, guess what, my friend? He says, foxes have way to sleep and the birds have way to sleep, but I'm homeless. Would you like to follow the homeless guy? And the story ends there. Jesus is saying to you and me, are we fans or followers, on a simple reason? One simple reason is that to see the level of commitment. When he said to Jesus, I'm homeless, I'm sure the story ended there. The guy just went. Who here wants to follow the homeless guy? People said usually no to this. And the second man comes to Jesus, and I tell you the text, I'm not going to go very long. I don't know how long your pastor preaches here, but and if I mess up here, he'll fix it next Sabbath. He said to another man, follow me. But the man replied, Lord, first let me go and bury my father. Jesus said to him, let the dead bury their own dead, but you go and proclaim the kingdom of God. You see, my friends, again, Jesus comes into the story. He calls a man, he says, follow me. But the man replied, Lord, let me bury my father first. If you look at the text, you would realize that there is a really significant problem for me personally, I don't know about for you. And that is, I don't recognize this Jesus. Jesus is a God of love, and not only that, but certainly I expected him to have a little bit more compassion, but as I was studying this text, I came to the conclusion that in this text, this man is using the statement that was used in Palestine and Israel for a long time. Let me tell you what it means. It simply means this, that the young people would simply, be asked the question. They would say, hey, when you going to go and build your house on the land? Or when you going to plant your vineyard next to the house? And the young people would say this, well, you know what? Let me bury my father first. In other words, the dad did not approve him building the house. Dad did not approve him planting the vineyard. So he would say the sentence, well, let me bury my father. Father is still alive. But he just does not approve this. I don't know about you, my friends, but Jesus called the man and he said, hey, follow me. And he said this to Jesus, I will follow you, Jesus, but not now. I'll follow you tomorrow or in a month time. Let me bury my father first, because my dad doesn't want me to follow Jesus. You see, my friends, it's easy to follow Jesus sometimes when it's easy. But it's sometimes very difficult to follow Jesus. Especially when the world is making fun of you. I remember as a child, I grew up in Serbia, a communist country. God was moved away. I remember coming home and my mom saw me. I was a little bit sad. She looked at me and she said, why are you so sad? I said, Mom, my friends are making fun of me because I follow Jesus. And she looked at me, and as a small child, you all want from your mom at that stage is a little hug, is that right? You're like, oh, don't worry. No, Mom didn't do that. She looked at me and she said, they're making fun of you following Jesus? Like, yeah. And this is what she said. She said, my son, they're going to keep making fun of you until you're proud to follow Jesus. It's like for a little boy who just wanted a hug, I'm like, thanks, Mom. That really helps, yeah. I was really looking forward for that. Okay. Guess what? Tomorrow I went to school, same boys, same problems. They came and they started shouting and making fun of me in front of everybody. You follow Jesus, you go to church on Sabbath, all these things, blah, 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 blah. In that very moment, I remember my mom's words. I was like, I stopped, I looked at them, I said this. This is what I said. I said, guess what? I'm proud to be a follower of Jesus. I'm proud to go to church. I'm proud to be Seventh-day Adventist. Are you proud to be anything in your life? You suddenly see everything changes. Like they're like, I need to go. And guess what? As I grew up in this communist country, in this church school, guess what? They started respecting who I was. If they were smoking, they would stop smoking when I come. If they're drinking, they would stop drinking when I was there. I was able to invite them to come to different events and ask them to join because they somehow knew that Dejan has something that we do not have. And I just want to say this to you, my friends. The world will keep making fun of us. Everyone, the moms and dads and parents, everybody, they'll keep making fun of all of us as long as we are not proud to be who we are. And that is the followers of Jesus Christ. Unapologetically Seventh-day Adventists. People who love this community and love our Savior. I don't know about you, my friends, but I would like to be the follower of Jesus Christ. And not a fan. You see, let me just ask this question for you. But before I say this, how many of you here are vegetarian? This is a very personal question. I'm not going to point a finger and laugh at you. Put the hands up. Who's vegetarian here? Dougie is vegan. He's vegan. Two people, three. I can see the people are not very brave being vegetarian. People do this like. Now this explains why McDonald's doesn't have any veggie meals, by the way. They're saying that the fastest growing group in the world when it comes to dietary needs is a group of people who call themselves vegetarian, but they eat meat sometimes. Anybody here like that here? There's about 5 more people. So what happens is, like, you know, you're vegetarian, but like when there is no opportunity to eat vegetarian food, what happens is you eat meat. And so you go to the petrol station, we're rushing to work, and you are like, oh, I need to buy that sandwich, you know, with cheese so I can eat that. Not Dougie because he's vegan. And and you're like, oh, and they all ate your sandwich, and the only thing there's this like stuffed chicken. And you're like, oh, well, there is no vegetarian, so let me eat the chicken. Or you go to the restaurant and you order lasagna, a vegetarian lasagna, and a few moments after ordering vegetarian lasagna, somebody comes and says, I'm so sorry, but we run out of the vegetarian lasagna, but we have lasagna with lamb. And now you're like, what to do now? And then you start thinking about this and you are like, well, lamb is vegetarian. Maybe I can eat lamb. And you eat a lamb lasagna. Jesus in this text is saying this important thing. And let me tell you, do you know how these people are called? Do you know how they're called? They're called flexitarians. Because they're flexible with their lamb and chicken. And the reality is this. Jesus is saying in this text, he's saying this, he says, I don't want you to be flexitarian with me. I don't want you to be flexitarian with me. I want you to follow me from the beginning to the very end. When it's easy and when it's hard. When everybody's supporting you and when everybody's against you. When people at work talk behind your back, is, oh, this guy's a Christian, man, he just lost it. He wants you to follow him when it's easy and when it's hard. When you have people to go with and when you're alone. He wants you to be his follower. And the last man, we're going to finish here, says this. He says, Jesus called another man. He said, come, follow me. But he replies and he says, hey, let me say goodbye to my family. And Jesus says these very painful words. He's saying this, hey, you know what? Just go back home. It's okay. Whoever puts the hand on the plow and returns back is not fit to serve. And let me just tell you what Jesus is saying in this text. You need to hear very clearly. Jesus is not saying for you and for me, listen, listen, don't worry, it's, it's game over. Jesus is just saying this. I am a little bit sick and tired of mine and your part-time Christianity. In other words, Jesus is saying this. I want you to follow me from the beginning to the end. I don't want you to be half in and half out. Jesus is saying, I don't want to be this cool guy for weekends that you take me out for the Sabbath, and then when the Sabbath is finished, you put me back in your cupboard. Jesus is saying, I'm not here to be somebody who is to give you a relationship with the benefits. You want all my blessings and you all want my protection, but when everything is finished, I'm not there. You're not there for me anymore. Jesus is saying, I want to have a full-time relationship with you from the very end to the very beginning, and opposite. Dear friends, I just want to ask you, are you fans or followers of Jesus Christ? Because Jesus is saying, I want to have a full-time relationship with you. Do I fail? I do. Sometimes on a daily basis. But I can tell you for sure, I strive every single day to have the full-time relationship with Jesus Christ. Do I get angry? Yes, I do. Especially when people cut me out in traffic. Man. And then I try to stop myself and just, you know what I do? Let me tell you what I do. I count. I say 1, 2, 3. My name is Dejan Stojkovic. And I'm not a fan. At the moment I say these words, I remind myself, hey, Dejan, you're a follower of Jesus. So before you hit the horn, before you start shouting all these things, you're 1, 2, 3. My name is Dejan Stojkovic, and I'm not a fan. Guess what? It changes you. It changes me. And then I start realizing, hey, maybe I need to do something more about my life. I need to do a little bit more with how I behave and what I say, what I talk, and what happens in my life. And I just want to say on the very end, maybe it's time for you to start count as well. Maybe you can count in Spanish. And let's practice this together. I'm going to count. Let's count together. 1, 2, 3. And then you say, my name is, and I'm not a fan. Would that be okay? Let's try. 1, 2, 3. My name is Dejan Stojkovic, and I'm not a fan. Maybe let's do it again because that was terrible. Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3. My name is Dejan Stojkovic, and I'm not a fan. I don't know about you, but sometimes just hearing those words, they really remind us that Jesus is asking us to live the life of full commitment. If you are not Seventh-day Adventist and you were invited to be here today, bad news for you guys. This message was not for you. This message was for the committed Seventh-day Adventist members, people who were baptized, probably here or there. This message is for people who are coming to this church faithfully from year to year, from day to day. This message is for us. If you are searching for God right now in your life, I just want to say this. God has all the time you need for the decisions to be made. If you find God in this or not, maybe not that. If you're finding God in this place but not maybe with somebody else, God is saying, you know what? I'm here for you, and God is here for all of us. But He's saying for us who are searching for God right now, hey, don't give up. We will be there together. And one day, when you decide to follow me, I want you to know that I want to have a full-time relationship with you. So my friends, I don't know about you, but very often I'm a fan of Jesus, and He wants me to be the follower. And I just want to encourage everybody here today. This is a beautiful church. But there's some empty rows and seats around you, and you know who used to be there or who should be there. There are people who maybe right now are wondering what to do with their lives, and guess what? God is counting on you as a follower of Him, that maybe you will make a phone call this week and just say, hey, I haven't seen you this Sabbath for a little while. Come back. We miss you and we love you. Maybe there are people who in your family who are wondering where God is, and maybe you need to make that step as a follower of Jesus Christ and share the story and once again invite them to come. Because nothing happens without our invitation. Followers do that for Jesus. We invite people. Maybe somebody needs to get a text message right now after this conversation of this message and just say, listen, hey, I was at the church and people were asking about you. We hope you can come back. Do you know what I found out? I found out that it takes 3 people to invite one person who used to come to this church to come back to this church. 3 people, that means you and somebody else need to say, hey, we miss you, come back. And you know what? It takes, they're saying, up to 12 people inviting people who don't come to church to even try to come to the church. And you would wonder, what is the point of this? And I'll tell you what is the point. The point is, you might be the 11th person who is inviting them to come to church, and they just need maybe one more person to say, hey, come, this is a beautiful community. We want you, and we want to be you to know Jesus as well. So as a followers of Jesus Christ, as we change our life, I call upon all of us to take that on us. Make some phone calls and some text messages as we need to get our friends back, our family members, and introduce Jesus to the beautiful greater Sydney. So may God bless you as we all live as true followers of Jesus Christ. Amen.